Oh man, that still hurts. This is such a huge moment in the story. Everyone's button mashing so hard right now. Well, hey there, cowpokes. Roger Clark here, aka Arthur Morgan from Red Dead Redemption 2. I'm really looking forward to what we're about to do because we are focusing on the best moments of Red Dead Redemption 2. So, 5 years. My first day was August of 2013. I'll never forget that day. Then 5 years later... Oh yeah, a lot of people's favorite mission, that one. So typically when we would do the mocap scenes, Benjamin Byron Davis, who did a fantastic job performing Dutch Vanderland, well, if you ain't gonna be civilized about this, and then he drew his pistol and that was cut. Rest goes straight into gameplay. But yeah, that's such an iconic scene. But that long walk up, we had to do that like 3 or 4 times. So we would do the scene, walk, hit the end of the room, okay, cut, go straight back and just carry on where we left off. And then the amazing animators blended it in and made it look as natural as what we just saw just there. And I had no idea it was gonna look that epic. So how do you mocap a gunfight? Cut scenes, which is very cinematic, usually, and then you're doing a lot of the in-game animations too. Now the in-game animations, just trying to get the data that the animators need in order to make everything look seamless. We didn't have to do many gunfights because that's obviously was going to be playable.
This is America! You can always cut a deal!
I've given you enough chances.
Come on! No!
So rough.
There's your
Oh man, that still hurts. So, gosh, yeah. There's loads to talk about here. Fun fact, so the guy who plays Milton, his last name's Hickok, and he's actually related to Wild Bill Hickok. This is such a huge moment in the story because the angel over Dutch's shoulder gets snuffed out. I knew that it was going to be a huge moment for the player because this is when really starts to hit the fan. And this is when stuff really starts to go downhill for the gang.
I'll keep her in black, on your behalf.
Arthur's accent is not geographically accurate to any one region, but I figured that was okay. You know, Arthur from a very young age travels all over the West. I remember when I started too, I was like, this is gonna be a long project. I knew that I was gonna have to be consistent and make sure that he sounds the same. I do recall Arthur being a little bit more southern than what we ended up doing. I thought a bit of a blend would serve the character well because it would highlight the fact that he's always on the move and he's always traveling. But yeah, down in south, you get a lot more soft on them vowels. You draw the vowels out a little more, and then the vowels don't become as long, and you start hitting them consonants a little bit more.
Sir? I need help!
I need help!
Take that.
We need to go. You ran away.
Man,
No such
you know what a lot of people don't
Don't be a
notice
fool.
is like, you know, Dutch had obviously been grooming Eagle Flies. He was encouraging him to go against his father's wishes. He was encouraging him to choose violence because that's what served Dutch's interests. And then when Arthur drags him out, mortally wounded, Dutch doesn't even acknowledge it. He says nothing about Eagle Flies whatsoever. There is already at this point in the game a lot of division and friction between Dutch and Arthur. I think Dutch sees an opportunity here. I agree with Arthur. Dutch ran away. So about the mentor relationship between Dutch and Arthur, and it definitely is a bit of a fatherly role that Dutch plays. A dynamic of that relationship always works until the younger one decides that it doesn't suit them anymore. I think for Arthur, it's sad because he remains loyal to the very end, to his detriment. His loyalty is never going to go away. I think there's a lot of disappointment when he sees aspects of Dutch that he didn't expect to. One thing that is unquestionable is, at least in the beginning of the game, is that The deep, deep bond and relationship that these three have for each other is very genuine and it's very strong.
See past our own grievances. This is what I try to teach my son.
So, this particular scene, this was done in the booth. A lot of the horse animations that you see, they were done with real horses. And in those instances, it's not me, they used the horse wranglers, who knew their animals much better and were far better riders than I. This is all the technology from like 7 or 8 years ago. But performance capture is playing a bigger and bigger part in games. And we're starting to see it in film now, too. Look at Planet of the Apes and Avatar and Marvel, you know. Performance capture is this exploding medium, and I love raising awareness about it. I really believe that Red Dead 2, what it really excels at is immersion in a very developed and alive sandbox world.
Let us away. Wish us luck. I've only crashed twice.
How did you get out of this?
Yeah, I remember this.
Okay.
So obviously we weren't up in the air when we did it. I remember thinking at the time, look at that light. The way that the lighting is amazing. That's one thing that blew my mind. Arthur's never experienced anything like this. Most people in 1899 would not have experienced something like this. Arthur has already been diagnosed here, and he's already starting to show signs of deterioration. I tried to bring in some wonder and some marvel on Arthur's behalf once he actually looks at this amazing, beautiful vista. Now, I wouldn't say I'm very method, but I have been in a hot air balloon. I'll definitely run around a bit. If I need to be out of breath, I'm definitely going to run around just before they shout action. I want to come up with as authentic and as honest a performance as I possibly can.
Okay, ladies, let's get out of here.
Calm down, Mr. Morgan. That's quite a cough.
Oh no! See, he could totally have gotten him now! Abigail saves the day. Thank gosh. Thank gosh for Abigail there.
Get them bags packed up.
That's
quick,
really
Miss
funny too,
Grimshaw.
because at the beginning of the game, Micah would never talk back to Grimshaw like that. She wouldn't have allowed it. But here, we can see the power dynamic has changed. Now that Micah has Dutch's ear, he's totally become the second guy in charge. After only 6 or 7 months with the gang.
Who amongst you
Man.
is with
And Grimshaw just dying on the ground. Imagine all the people who die. They probably would have sided with Arthur. You can't say. I mean, it was just so much bad luck for Arthur and John here. And poor Javier, if I was Javier, I would side with Dutch here. I mean, look, well, who are my options? I've got 4 very able-bodied dudes that know how to handle themselves in a firefight. And on the other side, we have a guy dying of TB and one fella who's shot in the arm. I mean, it's a no-brainer. And a lot of people make that observation that Javier doesn't actually point his gun to them. He points it up in the air because Javier, although he does take Dutch's side, he's not happy about it. And he obviously still has a lot of love for Arthur and John, so he doesn't actually point his gun to them. So Arthur has 4 endings. He has a high and low honor version of going to help John, and he has a high or low honor version of going back for the money. None of them are happy endings for him. It's funny too, you know, 'cause sometimes I'll speak to fans and I'll say, which ending did you get? Sometimes they'll go, oh, I got the good ending. And I'm like, there's a good ending? What are you talking about? One of the things that Red Dead 2 does that I don't believe I've ever seen in a Western before is where we see the main protagonist admit that he's scared.
I guess I'm afraid.
And some people don't even get this cutscene. If you didn't help Sister Calderon, this scene doesn't happen. But if you do, then he chats to her and he admits to her that he's dying of tuberculosis, and he admits that he's afraid of that. I had never seen something like that in a Western before, so I was very keen to explore it. I was very grateful for a scene like that, because we were able to do something that hadn't really been done in the genre before, and of course that's exciting. People can be complicated. They can be good one day and they can be bad the next. And I don't think that that necessarily has to be a contradiction of their character. People react differently in different circumstances, and I really appreciated the opportunity to explore that with Arthur. Oh gosh, yeah, Sean's dead. This one came out of left field. Rough. That was taking inspiration from Fistful of Dollars, where you got Clint Eastwood, the man with no name, riding into a town, and he pits two gangs against each other to his own advantage. And that, in turn, was inspired from Yojimbo, directed by Akira Kurosawa and starring Toshiro Mifune, who was a huge influence for Arthur Morgan. There are so many parallels between samurai films and Western films and samurai films and video games. If you want to learn more, check out Gamology's video about Kurosawa. But yeah, this scene, man, I remember them talking about it, and I remember saying to them, guys, I don't want to know. I don't want to know. When I actually played the game for the first time, the epilogue was the first time I didn't know what was going to happen next. So this scene for me was mind-blowing, absolutely mind-blowing. And it's one of the best missions in the game, I think, because you finally get your revenge. But what's about to happen now comes as a shock to most players, at least the first time they played it. Why does Dutch decide to shoot Micah? And I think I know the answer. It's because Dutch knows that Arthur's dying wish was to protect John. And so he decides to honor Arthur's last wishes here. It's a bit too little, too late, but it's the least he can do. And that, I think, is why he chooses to shoot Micah here. He still doesn't like John, but it's out of respect for Arthur's final dying wish. Ned Luke in the game. There's been a lot of speculation about this. I think maybe I'll be able to put that speculation to an end right now.
Stop it. Stop the wheel. Stop it right there. There's Big Daddy. There I am.
I don't think that's him. I know what Ned Luke did do. There is a moonshine mission, and it's with one of the gray deputies, and you take out loads of moonshiners. Ned Luke is one of them. People often ask me what was the hardest thing about Red Dead 2, and I'll tell them it was crouch running. Because we crouched ran for, I think, a couple of days. Because you gotta crouch run, walk, stealth, run with one gun, run with two guns, then you gotta crouch run with a rifle. And like 3 days later, my thighs were absolutely killing me. Rockstar Games, you know, they really pay a lot of attention to details. Not a lot of studios do it that way. But I was very, very grateful that Rockstar Games gave me so much ownership over Arthur. Because Arthur walks like me, you know, he rubs his nose like me. The immersion is so important. I feel really blessed. As an actor, so often we second guess ourselves. I've learned to do it less as I've gotten older, but I still do it. And very often I'll dwell on something a week or two afterwards, you know, thinking, gosh, you know, maybe I should have done it that way. And I remember thinking that with Arthur's death. Oh no, hell, the really hits the fan. Everyone's button mashing so hard right now. I know I was, and I knew what was gonna happen.
God damn you. It is over. Now, Arthur. It's over.
This fight, though, was different. Because it's such an important fight, and because it's a very specific fight, and because they're kind of not under player control. I mean, there are button prompts, but you don't control Arthur. This fight we actually did mocap, and it was choreographed, and we did it in tandem with stunt performers. They had two other stunt performers, one of them being me and one of them being Peter, who also did the fight in the same choreographies, and I was honored that they did end up using most of our data for that fight. But his last breaths, though, I chose to make a little bit more peaceful, because he was, if some people may remember, there's a point where in one of the camps where people are talking about how they would want to die or something. If you hang around long enough in the conversation, Hosea will chime in and say, "What do you think, Arthur?" And Arthur says something along the lines of, you know what, just face me to the west so that I can think about all the good times I had along the way. And so that's what he gets to do here. So I tried to give him some semblance of peace in his last few moments. Once Dutch and Micah abandon him, we need to give the player some solace. Because at this point, most people are bawling their eyes out. Biggest challenge was portraying Arthur's sickness and his weariness, but to do it in a way that didn't slow down the gameplay. That was tricky. Guys, thank you so much for sharing that with me. I had a blast sharing it with you. I've been Roger Clark, aka Arthur Morgan. This is Experts React. Outlaws for life.